All right. So what is it that you wanted to talk about tonight?
So we had this crazy, amazing event the last 2 days at our meeting house. And I wanted to talk about it. It was the first time that we had done it. So let me just tell you from the beginning. So my Relief Society secretary posted a flyer on Facebook, and that was the first I knew about the event. And and um she's my friend. She's relatively new in the area, about 3 years, and she's kind of a mover and a shaker. Like she makes things happen. She probably knows more people in town than I do. um and when I saw this flyer, it was for a toy and clothing exchange to happen the second week of December. Really cute flyer, super well done, translated into Spanish. And I thought, I hope she has permission to do this. So I reached out to her and I said, did you talk to somebody, to Bishop or the stake president? And she had. She had cleared it with the stake president. She'd reserved the building. Um, and she put it up several weeks in advance. It's been circulating. Her flyer's been circulating for several weeks. Um, and then I just found out tonight because we were talking about it. Well, let me back up. So in my mind, when I saw the flyer, I thought, oh, this is a great idea. This is nice. She told me that her inspiration was the Relief Society Global Initiative for Women and Children, and we had talked about that in Relief Society. And and she was actually going to do something about it, and this was her idea. And I thought, okay, wow, that's amazing, because I think everybody else just listened politely and didn't do anything. Um, but I thought, oh, this will be a nice event. And in my mind, it's this smallish, kind of nice, fun thing. Well, I find out today that she was immediately boots on the ground, and she was taking flyers to um, the school, the after school program at the migrant camp, um, to preschools. She was advertising on a county mama's page. Um, she was advertising in a lot of places that I didn't know about, and was making some really good contacts. Places in Chico, and anyway, it was a lot larger than I knew about until this morning when we were talking about it. And as we closed in on it, some of my concerns, I mean, it became apparent to me, I think because I was seeing at so many places on Facebook, um, people that I knew, people that I didn't know, and I would hear people talking about it. It finally dawned on me it was going to be big. It was going to be a big event, much bigger than I imagined. And and so then security became my worry. And I thought, you know what? I better I better just plan on being there. I don't even know that I planned on being there, but then because I was worried about security in the building, I thought maybe I better plan on being there and just help. So it was a 2 day event. The first day was drop off, the second day was shopping, although everything was free. And so from 4 to 7 on Tuesday, we opened the building. Well, let me back up. When did we set up? Did we set up on Tuesday? We must have, yeah, we set up on Tuesday. And my friend had a vision, for how many tables should go up. So we had these rows of long tables, not very many rows. We pulled out like one rack of long tables and set them up. And she had these cute little signs, like child 0 to 3 months, child 2 to 3 years, boys 8 to 10 years, and like that. And and immediately at 4 o'clock, people started coming in with donations, and we got so many more donations that I think anybody imagined that we would get. And we just kept setting up tables and tables, and finally had to pull out another rack and more tables and more tables. And finally, we're out of long tables. So then we're pulling out the round tables from the closet where they are, and used up almost all the round tables. And we had a sister there that was, she just has a very organized mind, and she was really directing, okay, we need a row of tables here, and it's going to be for these sizes, and we need round tables in the back for the women's clothing, and more tables down at the end for the toys. And so anyway, we had a lot of help Tuesday. We had 5 missionaries. We had about 3 Relief Society sisters, and then people that would come in with donations. All the donations were just getting set on the stage, and then the stage was getting too full, so we were just starting this big pile in front of the stage. And people that brought donations in would say, hey, I'd like to help. I can see you need help. And so in the end, there were probably 20 people that helped during those 3 hours. And by 7 o'clock, everything was out on the tables, sorted by general sizes. I mean, next time when we do this, we'll probably have it organized a little better by size. Like all the women's clothing was like tops, skirts, pants, jackets, instead of small, medium, large, extra large. And so it might happen differently next time, but we did the best we could, and everything looked so neat and organized, and the clothes were nicely folded and stacked. And so I had someone take pictures. So at this point, all that's gone out on Facebook is the 2 flyers, English, Spanish. So I had a friend take pictures, because all I did was take, like, I stood on the stage and I took sort of a bird's eye view picture, but you couldn't really see what was there. All you could see was that it was large. And I had already gone home. So I called a friend and I said, I need you to take a picture of the stuffed animals, and of the books, and of the puzzles, and of the shoes, and of the baby gear. And so she took these individual pictures, and I talked to my friend who organized it, and I said, we'll make a post with all these pictures, and that will really bring people in. And then we talked, and we thought, let's post it in the morning. This is my, are people going to break into the building? We don't have the best security in our building. We're working on that, right? We're kind of in a transition phase, trying new systems. So that morning we posted on the stake page, intentionally on the stake page, so that the stake page would get traction. And when I went up there at 3 o'clock to help set up the building, it had 32 shares. I checked today, and it ended at 113 shares.
Which is pretty good,
And
right?
our stake page, what's that?
That's pretty good, right?
Oh, that's huge. For our page, that is huge. That's just huge that it got shared out that much. And I pushed it out immediately. Our stake social media specialist pushed it out to all the wards and branches. And then I pushed it out to community pages. And then my friend who organized the event pushed it out. She had a much broader swath of pages, because I just know Gridley community pages and like ward pages. So she was really pushing it out.
So this was, you said 3 o'clock. So what are the days? This is Tuesday, you guys did 3 hours. And then what's the day that everybody's coming?
So yesterday, Wednesday, is the day that everybody was coming. So it was 2 consecutive days, Tuesday, Wednesday, 4 to 7. The times were the same, which I think was a good idea. So there was no confusion.
Okay. And then how many on that first day when you're getting donations, people dropping off, How many of those people did you know or recognize?
Not very many. I would say, and we probably got, how many people brought in donations? Um, I would say like maybe 60, and I might have recognized five of them.
Whoa, jeez.
Yeah. So the word got out really well, um, enough that people saw this as an opportunity to take things, nice things that they had that they weren't interested in anymore, and and a place to take them that they trusted.
Yeah, that's interesting that you guys didn't get a bunch of garbage. If
We got
I mean,
very little garbage. I was amazed after sorting and putting everything out. You know those big garbage cans they have in the meeting houses. We had two of those that were piled a little high, and that was it.
wow,
That was it for unusable items.
that's a miracle in
Yeah.
itself.
And so much of it was just really, really nice stuff, a lot with tags. Yeah, it was just
Okay,
amazing. So all these people with donations. And for donations, we had all three main entrances unlocked with, the big rolling chalkboards and whiteboards. We had one of those at every entrance with arrows pointing which way to go. Because when you go in the main entrance of our meeting house, it's not obvious what direction to go. Like you hit a T, right? You can go that way or that way. And so she had this big rolling chalkboard and she had printed out one letter per page, CLOTHING and TOY, so this huge sign, this big arrow pointing to the right. So when people walked in, first of all, we propped both doors open. When people walked in, they knew they were in the right place,
right.
right? And we had a sandwich board out on the sidewalk
Oh, that's
that
cool.
was lit up, so you could see it at night, balloons.
Oh, wow.
So a lot of people coming to the building for the first time, between the sandwich board, the doors propped open, all the cars in the parking lot, and then the big chalkboard, they knew they were in the right place, right? And I think that's huge for people when they're going into an unfamiliar building, especially a church.
Mm, a
I think
scary
it's so
church,
hard to walk into a church that's not yours.
especially when it's a cult run by a cult.
Yeah. So so we took all these pictures, posted, got crazy traction with the post. Um,
So now you're on Wednesday at four
yeah,
o'clock.
so now we're on Wednesday. So we get there at 3. And the first thing I did was walk the hallway, close all the doors, and the seminary had their door open and they had their little clipboard where the kids sign in. And so put all that away. So there's nothing interesting. Um, and we had determined we would not open the doors till 4. So we put up some final sign. We only had one entrance open and unlocked for the shopping day. And so on all the other doors around the building, we had these arrows directing everybody around the building.
Right.
Like if you happen to go the wrong side,
Yeah.
and the sandwich board was up again. And and when we went out to open the doors at 4 o'clock, there was probably a line of 50 people ready to come in. Minimum 50 people.
What was this marketed as again? Is this a community yard sale or exchange?
It
What was
was, she called it a community toy and clothing exchange.
a community toy and clothing exchange? And I guess that's pretty well understood. Like people understand the concept of like you're not here to pay money, you're just here to collect, and
And
therefore,
in, yeah, and in big letters, well, no, the first word was free. Yeah, the first word was free community toy, but toy first and clothing exchange. And then she had Wednesday's times in big letters, and then she had a breakdown donation shop. So it was a pretty busy flyer.
Did people try to donate on Wednesday?
Oh, yes. And she said, we're not taking donations after 5 because we won't have time to put every. People were bringing donations until 6:45. And we were putting things out and they were getting taken. Um,
It's insane.
so
You have to send me the
yeah,
pictures. I'll have to see if I can stitch them in somehow.
okay. Um, yeah, the pictures are amazing. I took a 12-second video. That's yeah, amazing. I wish I would have had a drone. It might have freaked everybody out though. But to have a drone up there would have been so cool.
Yeah, drone would be next level. So, Mom, on the exchange day, could anybody come, or was it like only those who brought stuff could come? I assume anybody
Oh,
could come.
anybody could come, and we were so determined. Oh, hold on. I lost my window. We were so determined because it was our first year and we were panicked we wouldn't get rid of stuff. So we were like, no limits. Everybody comes in, they take whatever they want. We just need this stuff out of here.
You can't leave until you
Because,
have at least 10 things in your arms.
yeah. And guess who was in charge of handling all the leftovers? Dad. And so I was totally on board with do everything you can to get rid of everything. So he's the Elders Quorum president, right? So it was his job to deal with the leftovers.
Wow.
So the first hour was definitely the heaviest. After the first hour, there was like this gradual drop off, in the number of people that were in there until like seven
Probably
o'clock.
probably because of
There
the
maybe a
daylight.
dozen people.
Because it gets
Yeah.
dark after 4:30. That doesn't help. But how did you guys file people in? Was it kind of a one at a time, or was it just open the door as a
It
free
was,
for all?
yeah, free for all. There was a sister that somehow had a case of last year's Trader Joe's Christmas bags. They were these super heavy, reusable, like you have to use in California,
Yeah.
super reusable bags. And I was at the door as people were coming in, and I was just handing bags. How many bags? One, two? How many? Giving it back to every kid. And people were stuffing those bags like crazy. We should have been walking around and just like giving bags to people that clearly were, had filled their bags. Okay, so we definitely had the most people the first hour, and it was our primary demographic was Hispanics. That's how well my friend reached out to that community.
And
I
how
mean,
well that community is connected. It's a very
yeah.
connected
Oh,
community.
yeah, word of mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the last hour and a half, we're getting people who, yeah, my daughter called me and told me I had to come, and my neighbor, and
Yeah.
um so it was heavily Hispanic. I didn't see anybody there that I would go, oh, come on, do they really need to be here? They have resources. There wasn't anybody like that. In fact, we had this lady come in. She was probably early 30s. She's tall, she's smartly dressed, clearly has come from a professional job. She has heels on. She has this beautiful red trench coat on. Her hair's neatly done. And she comes up to me at the entrance and she says, do you have a bathroom? And I pointed in the opposite corner that we had a big bathroom sign, huge bathroom sign. So she walks off, and then about 5 minutes later, she comes walking back and she says, thank you, and walks out with nothing in her arms. And I think that's so funny that she drove by the event, and between the sandwich board and the cars, she just figured out there must be a decent bathroom in there,
Yeah.
and the building's clearly open.
Yeah. Better than the subway bathroom or something.
So did you guys have a lot of leftover clothes?
We did not. We had, when it came to cleanup time, we had several cardboard boxes. We packed according to, like, we would go to the children's table and all the children's clothes, right? The women's jackets. And we had about 15 medium-sized boxes left over.
That's reasonable. My cynical question would be, did you see anybody that was obviously taking more than they needed? Not that they did or didn't have the resources, but like, you don't need 500 t-shirts. Why are you grabbing 500 t-shirts?
I was afraid we would get people that were sourcing. I didn't see that. There was a lady and her mother, a lady probably in her late 30s, early 40s, and a mother who clearly had a hoarding problem. I mean, they were not sourcing. They just had a hoarding problem. And I gave them a ride home. They had already contacted my friend because she put her phone number on the flyer. That's the other thing. Had contacted my friend and said, we will need a ride home. They had walked probably 2 miles from the south end of the highway to the church. My younger daughter was in a wheelchair, and they had a pile going. Like, they had a pile, and my friend, because she had contacted them in advance and knew what was going on, she could see that it was a hoarding problem. And so she walked over to the daughter and said, I need you to stop. I need you to stop. You have too many things. And even then, she like couldn't stop. And by that time, she had talked to me because I was her ride home. And then my friend came over to me and said, we need them to leave. And so I went over to her and I said, I've got my car pulled around. I'm ready to take you. And that got them out.
It's hard.
But then on the way home, I'm talking to them, and they had all their things in this storage unit, and they lost the storage unit.
Yeah.
I'm guessing they didn't keep up on payments or something, and they lost all their belongings. And so they were giddy. They were giddy to be able to get what they got. Um, so even they, it was probably fine for them to get as much as they got.
Well,
But I didn't see.
that's kind of it's not really a fear, right? Because it's not like anybody's profiting off of what's going on. So somebody comes in and says, "I'm taking half of it, put it in the back of the semi truck," and you're like, "What do I care? Like, this is not my stuff. It's a community event. Like, I don't know what he's gonna, And so people of all different appetites are going to be there, and it's nice that you don't have to manage that because there's nothing in it for you to manage. You just
Yes.
the community is what it is, so they come and you get what you get.
The motivations are all positive motivations. The people that bring things are purging, that's a healthy thing. They're getting rid of belongings they don't need, and it's going to a trusted event. Um, our motivation is to get rid of things. That's a positive motivation. And and then the people that come, their motivation is to get things they need for free. And and like I say, I didn't see anybody that was questionably, that shouldn't have been there.
You think
Everybody.
if it was any longer, would you have gotten rid of everything?
No, because it got later into the evening. The other thing that was interesting is that people would walk out. I was sitting by the entrance giving out bags, and people would walk out and they would come up to me right in my face and say, thank you. Thank you so much for doing this. Thank you.
Mhm.
And I talked to a lady that was affected by the Apache fire this last summer, lost her home, And she was there at the very end and was picking up a few things. And she even asked me, she said, "This is a beautiful building. This room is amazing. How long have you been here?" Well, she's from out of the area, right? So she doesn't know. And I'm like, "We've been here a while." And she said, "Oh, thank you for letting us in this beautiful building." Um, so I mean, the people that came were needy. We didn't have any security issues. None. All my worries were for naught.
And mostly female, I guess.
Families. When it came to the Hispanics, they came as families and multi-generational. There was one family I saw that was 4 generations. Little shriveled up Mexican grandma, and then her grandma, daughter, and then the young mom, and then the little kids.
That's
A
cool.
lot of families like that.
So how would you do it differently next time?
Well, let me back up a little bit. Um, okay, so Tuesday night after setup, it starts to dawn on me how amazing this event is going to be. So I want to talk about that a little bit. I have notes. Number one, most importantly, it's a humanitarian event. People that really need things are getting them for free. Two, it's a missionary event because people are walking through the doors, and that is huge, huge. And what do they see first of all? A huge painting of the Savior. Bing, bing, bing. They recognize that. That's huge. And then they go into the gym. It's a perfectly normal gym. There's a stage, there's basketball rims, the court is painted on the floor, there's bathrooms out that corner. Everything is normal, right? So all of a sudden, the church is a little less mysterious, a little less unfamiliar.
A little less culty.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so it's a humanitarian event, a missionary event. It's a huge communication event. First of all, the stake Facebook page gets amazing traction, like it never has before. And and people have more positive feelings about the church. Like I would see, okay, I'm standing by the entrance and families are walking in and they're just like this. There's so much trepidation. And I'm like, "Do you want a couple of bags?" And then they finally relax a little bit. And as they come in, I just think there's so much fear with coming in to a church that's not yours, and to watch that dissolve, as they walk through the main doors, through the foyer, into the cultural hall gym. I just think it's this crazy missionary thing.
It's funny. There's a lot of subtopics in that right there because like I have a topic written down about how we talk about the missionary effort and the way we talk about it doesn't make sense to people who are not a part of the restored gospel because it's the same language that you use as a salesman. And everybody hears you say stuff and everybody's like, "Oh yeah, no, makes sense. They're salesmen." And but in our minds, we're like, "Wait, salesman? Like what am I selling exactly? Like I don't understand how I'm benefiting from this. Like it's a totally weird conversation." And then you have this thing about like you could repeat this motif dozens of times, but what you just said of like, yeah, it's so weird walking into a church that's not yours. Well, I've walked into maybe a dozen churches that aren't mine. And yeah, I guess there's some intrepidation, but more intrigue. I'm just like super fascinated, curious. I want to find somebody to talk to. I got questions. And most people aren't like that. Not because it's not their church, because most people don't have a church. Most people have intrepidation because it's a church, any church, because
Oh,
they
that
don't
could be.
because they don't have a church. It'd be the same thing if it was like if you've never been in a movie theater, you've never been in a hospital, you've never been in a grocery store, you walk in and you don't know Like, oh my gosh, am I about to get kidnapped or am I about to get hit with a salesman or something like that? And so there's this concept that we have of like this is the way people perceive us when in reality we have such a hard time understanding how people perceive us because someone like me who grows up in the church has zero sympathetic experiences with those people when they come in and I'm like, oh, they must be thinking this when they walk through the door because when I go to their church, I think that same thing. It's like, no, 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 no. You don't understand. Like me as someone who is confident in my faith walks through another church's door, that's like a 1 in 1,000. Most people, when they walk through any church door, even their own, don't consider themselves to have faith or a testimony or confidence. They're walking in with so much doubt and questions, and nobody has answers and confusion. So even in their own church, they're like, does anybody know what's going on around here? Like, this is really spooky. This is eerie. So it's crazy how many times you see that come up when we try and map our perceptions onto these individuals that just have such different experiences than us.
Okay, let me keep going. I have way overthought this. Okay, fourth, it's an environmental event because things are getting recycled and reused. Fifth, it's a healthful living event because people are encouraged to purge their belongings and get rid of things they don't need. And fifth, it's a community event because we have figured out a way to use our cultural hall space to benefit the community. Now, I know you're not supposed to have community events in the meeting houses, but you can have church sponsored events in the meeting houses that bring the community in. You can have sports programs and
Yeah.
emergency preparedness fairs. I mean, I think that that can be a way to look at our buildings and say, this is an amazing building, this is an amazing space. How can we use it to bring the community in? And it can be a Christmas music concert or a crash festival, or I just don't know if we think about that enough.
And it
Like
doesn't have to
how,
be church, I don't know what the word is, but like the ward doesn't have to put it on, right? It could be somebody else putting it on, and we're basically, what do you call it, sponsoring, endorsing, I don't know, but we're providing the space for a whole different community to use it. And I don't think that's the same thing as saying it's a community event. I agree that the culture halls and stuff like that have been underutilized for the past 20 years or so.
anyway, I was just blown away by it. And now I'm like, I sent my little 12-second video to the stake presidency that oversees Relief Society, even though it was not a Relief Society event. It really technically was my friend's private event that she got permission to have in the meeting house.
Which I think is better.
And
That's better than a Relief Society event.
so then I send the video to the stake presidency counselor, and I'm like, we want to report on this. My friend and I want to report on this, either to you, to the stake presidency, to the stake council. We need to report on this. I've already heard, just today, I heard a little bit about pushback that people were like, she's using up 2 full days. And then there were, probably young basketball players that were upset they couldn't go in Tuesday night. That's a whole nother topic. I'm serious, Denton. We need to have a discussion about that.
About
Um,
about basketball.
about basketball players. Yeah. Basketball players in the church. There's so
I'm
many stories. Oh,
I'm
and then
glad.
dad could probably,
Yeah, I'm glad.
what?
I'm glad that there are stories. The worst thing imaginable would be that you have a huge, beautiful basketball court in the middle of your church and there's no basketball stories to be heard of. That would be worst case scenario. So I'm thrilled
Yes.
I'm thrilled that there are basketball players in town that have stories, good or bad. I don't really care. Just that's very important.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, write that down. Future topic. Um, so anyway, there's been a tiny bit of pushback, and there might be more pushback that I'm not aware of. I don't know. So I'm thinking we need to get the word out. We need to talk about how amazing this was, if for no other reason, so that they will let us do it next year. By the way, her idea came from the BYU Law School. When she was living in Provo, BYU Law School was doing it twice a year.
Yeah,
I don't know if they still do.
so one of the topics that I would like to do, let's see, what would it be called? Um, liability conscious um local leadership and how I think that we can be better about that because the global church is very liability conscious and that makes total sense. But for local leadership at a ward and stake level to be questioning whether or not we should do this next year, I just start boiling with that stuff. It's just really upsetting.
And I don't know that it's a liability concern. Maybe it is. I mean, we need to talk more with people.
Well,
Yeah.
what would be the hesitation to do it next year?
Well, the complaint I got wind of was that it took 2 days, that we had the building for just over 24 hours.
Yeah, but in my mind, it comes from the same like whatever motivates that, in my mind, motivates the liability conversation. Like if somebody said your event took 2 days, oh, I don't think we can do it 2 full days next year. I would say, well, then maybe I'll make it five. I don't understand why you would care enough about a 2 day sequence to think that we're not going to do it, or that suddenly this is like something that the stake is going to control or the word is going to control. Like you don't understand. One individual on their own accord called somebody, scheduled, flyered, published, got all of this to get one person. It didn't take a stake, didn't take a ward, didn't even take a presidency. One person did this. They'll do it again without anybody having to control it. Like what do you even we didn't come for recommendations. We come for publicity. Please use your responsibilities to share this with other wards and get people's wheels turning. This is something that we need to spread, not control. You guys are totally backwards on this thing. I don't know if you guys are. I'm just saying that if somebody gave me that kind of a suggestion, that's why I start boiling is because I assume that that's where they're going. Like, oh, we need to like put parameters on this. It's like, no, 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 we're going this way. This is how we're going.
And I was thinking about, it went well, and maybe one of the reasons it went well and safely is because the size of our town. It's a relatively small town. I mean, if you tried doing this in the other town in our stake, it would probably need to look different. It's a bigger town, it would need a bigger space. Um,
Maybe just
it would
tighter
need more
timing.
security. Yeah,
Well, it could be
yeah.
tighter timing. So the
Two
donation,
hours instead of three.
well, it would be an hour donation slot and then 3 hour pickup. So that way you're constraining the stuff that's coming in, and the people that show up don't have a bazillion things to choose from. They've got less to choose from. You know what I mean? Like there's things like that that you can do to regulate it. You could do it 3 weeks, um, 2 weeks in a row instead of 1 week and just have it 1 hour each week, like an hour donation, next day, hour pickup, hour donation, hour pickup.
So let me couple of other thoughts. The only other times that I have seen that many non-members in the building is when they use our building for huge community funerals. If somebody dies in the community and you just know it's going to be a few hundred people coming to the funeral, that's when they reach out to us and want to use our building. I'm guessing that we had probably total 300 non-members in the building easily.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
And I there was so much good that came out of this event. But in my opinion, you go to okay, you have to talk about the humanitarian aspect. Yes, that was the primary goal. That was her primary goal. But just getting that many people through the door. I almost feel like we should have had the big curtain open so people could see the chapel.
No, just
Like
like
our
cracked.
chapel.
Just crack it a little bit.
This is our chapel. Look how normal our chapel is.
Well, yeah, it's um yeah, the other thing I was thinking of, it's there's something about it that is special because of the holiday, right? Like you're watching
Yeah.
people pick up toys knowing that those toys are going to be under a Christmas tree in a couple weeks. Like that's kind of cool that you're contributing to a better holiday. Whether maybe they have more or less toys, I don't know, but for sure it's going to be cheaper than what they had planned otherwise because toys are not cheap. So now they're getting a couple of free toys to give to their kids on Christmas. Like that's pretty cool. That alone, I mean, that's why they do the toy drives, right? Schools, even like motorcycle clubs do toy drives because they love the idea of contributing to a child being able to find something under the Christmas tree.
There were three hoverboards.
What?
Three hoverboards, functioning hoverboards got donated.
What about electric scooters?
No,
No? Okay.
I just saw hoverboards.
Man.
And I have to tell you that the lady, my friend that organized it and has a young family. She has going on 4 young children. She she did not let her kids take anything. She was so determined that that was not going to be what this was about.
So she really was coming from the humanitarian standpoint.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, well,
Yeah.
cool. That's an amazing story. Hopefully somebody can take something from that and learn from it. And I love hearing that a culture hall was used in that way. I think there needs to be more of that. More of that like old-fashioned community barbecue this Saturday at 3 p.m. Meet at the church and same thing, right? Like everybody's outside barbecuing, hanging out, picnic tables, whatever, but the church doors are open. And if you need to go to the restroom, guess what? You got to walk through the church, got to go through the doors. So yeah, I think that kind of stuff there needs to be more of. All right. You get all your notes?
Yeah. Thanks.